14,108. Definition of Buddha 4:4.
It is extremely important that we understand Buddha accurately. So far, doctors have merely become repairmen who keep fixing illnesses. But what is an illness? It occurs when something breaks in the physical body, cell division goes awry, or heat builds up, so they fix that. Yet when we go to a hospital, they call us patients. Patients are meant to be healed, not merely repaired. A patient must be cured. That way, the illness does not return. A patient is not something to be repaired, a patient must be healed. Then, how do you heal a patient? When a sick person comes, healing means teaching them the principles of why such an illness had no choice but to come to them. It came because they lived incorrectly, and living incorrectly reached an extreme point that eventually manifested as disease. Therefore, you must teach them how and why they lived incorrectly. Teach them the correct way and say, I will cure this illness. So from now on, let us change the way you live step by step. You don't even need to change everything completely. Human beings are such that simply knowing the path they ought to take begins to change them. Just knowing the path allows one to change on their own. Why? Because God created us that way. Show them the path. Show them the path to live correctly, the path to live joyfully, and the path to live with great enjoyment. Right now, teaching you through these lectures of Young Bub Right Law is showing you that very path. You must not live incorrectly. To live correctly and well, yet meet with hardship, there is no such law in the universe. Thus, patients must be healed, but patients are meant to be cured, not repaired. Patients must be healed, yet there is not a single person in hospitals today who heals patients. What are they going to do about this? Eventually, the work of fixing diseases will all be taken away by robots. The time has come for robots to do that work. Once they surrender all those jobs to robots, they will be utterly stunned because they do not know how to heal patients. Where are you going to go? What work do you have left to do? Doctors and scholars must engage in the work of healing patients. They should find that path, gather together to discuss these matters, refine them together, and eventually teach them broadly to society. Once these scholars find that path, we should enable them to speak on television and invite them to places where they can be heard worldwide via satellite broadcast. When one such person awakens, they lead all of humanity to walk the correct path. Then, is the one who leads all of humanity, our brothers and sisters and our people, on to the correct path a Buddha? Or is a Buddha someone who sits there smelling foul, saying, you must stick an incense stick here for me to open my eyes, or you must put some money here for me to smile once? How on earth can the descendants of heaven, the Hongik Ingen, broadly benefiting human leaders and intellectuals bow down to a piece of stone, calling it a Buddha? They are acting like utter fools. And over there, they hang a cross like this and cry out, Lord, today is an era where we must correct these things. Once again, because it's Buddha's birthday, they hold celebratory events like that. They even come out onto the streets. They come out and try to find even more ways to delude the public. They think they are doing well. How severely will they be punished? From now on, they will receive heavenly punishment. If those who ought to lead the people perform actions that delude them through religious organizations, heavenly punishment will come upon them from now on. These 3 years, 2025, 2026, and 2027, are the inflection point. And 2026 sits right in the middle. Someone is waiting for a prophet to come, just like in the time of Jesus. At the time of Jesus' coming, those who waited most desperately for a prophet were in Rome, where people lived the most severe lives. Who waited for a prophet in Rome? The persecuted slaves. That was when Jesus appeared. Jesus came out, took the side of the slaves too exclusively, and ended up being executed. He took the side of the slaves too much. Slaves were not the only ones feeling suffocated. Nero was suffocated too. Since I didn't study names from books, I don't know them well, but all those people were suffocated. The leaders were suffocated, the common people were suffocated, and the slaves were suffocated. Everyone was suffocated. So why take only the side of the slaves? Those who gathered the slaves and spread the message, spread it very effectively, calling him the king of slaves. If there are 2 kings, it becomes a huge problem. So, naturally, he was eliminated. Shouldn't you have taught them why they had no choice but to live as slaves? Why your lives turned out this way? Did you live like this from the very beginning? By trying to let others do the rough work while you only enjoyed the sweet benefits, didn't you end up in this miserable state? The people who did the rough work gained strength, and as they gained strength, those empowered people came to guide this entire society. Consequently, they came to reign over you. Since you yourselves created all of this and arrived at today's reality, shouldn't this be taught to you? Didn't heaven give you strength? Were there that many soldiers from the beginning? These are the things that should have been taught, but they failed to teach them. Going this far makes it seem like I'm criticizing one side. And I'm sorry for that, but it's not about criticizing, it must be unraveled. Everyone must return to their proper place. How? It must start with South Korea. Why must it start with South Korea? If you believe that you are indeed the descendants of heaven and the leaders of Hongjik Ingen, it must start with you. If it doesn't start with you, the order will not align. Only when the upper waters are clear will the lower waters be clear. If you are truly the descendants of heaven, you are the upper waters. When the upper waters are clear, people will gladly follow. It doesn't start from the bottom. What should we, the descendants of heaven, do from now on? We must bring joy to our ancestors, the prophets, and God. How can we bring them joy? Everyone must step forward and act as parents of society. What happens when you step forward and act as a parent of society? I, too, enter the position of a public figure. If you resolve to live for the sake of society, you are indeed a public figure. Even if you cannot live that way perfectly right now, the moment you come forward saying you will live for society, you are a public figure. From then on, you just need to study to be a public figure and live as one. Why? Because you are intellectuals. Intellectuals are 100% public figures. How are intellectuals living right now? They live privately. Because they live privately, they are private individuals. When intellectuals live as public figures, they become public figures. To live as a public figure, you must live for society. Then, what does it mean to live for society? Today's society is not a world that goes well just because I do well by myself. We must gather our strength. People with the same purpose must now truly gather their strength. We must gather our strength and perform work and activities together. Among the things we can do together, I am currently establishing one main cause and calling upon public figures to gather around it. Other matters can be done slowly. We can handle them together as we move forward, but presenting everything at once would be too complicated. So we must first create one primary cause: zero suicides in South Korea by 2030. Once the descendants of heaven find something that is correct, justified, and right, they rank number one in the world at uniting together. If they find a righteous cause, the people who step up, regardless of who they are the descendants of heaven. They are the Hongjik Ingen leaders, the outstanding ones, and the sages. They are merely wandering because they haven't found the path. Once they find it, even while holding a hoe and digging up potatoes in a field, they will join in. That is who the descendants of heaven are. They have descended with this majestic DNA that no one else in the world possesses. Today, these people have acquired all the knowledge, absorbed all the culture, experienced the world, and personally endured all the pain and hardships that arise among the people. With all of this, the greatest problem that has arisen is suicide. South Korea has ranked number one in suicides worldwide for over a decade. Are you going to overlook this and leave it unchecked? And yet you claim to be descendants of heaven? You claim to be Hongjik Ingen leaders? Do not think only of your own children. Researching while raising your children in their youth is one thing, but once your children become adults and you have experienced, learned from, and grown within this society even a little, we must view all families in this society as our own family. Once we grow further, all of humanity must become our family. That is what it means to be a descendant of heaven. These are the disciples of God. When these descendants of heaven, especially God's disciples, find the right path and unite their hearts, light will begin to shine from here, transforming humanity and even causing wars to disappear. If we do not do our duty, such things will never happen. It is not a world where things happen just because you wish for them. The fact that your capabilities have been cultivated means they were cultivated for you to display them. There was simply no leader to guide them. The one who comes to lead these people is coming as a Buddha. By guiding these people so that all of us act according to the laws of nature, you yourselves become Buddhas. Avalokiteshvaras, Guanyins, sages, and holy mothers. Holy people. That refers to the people of South Korea. Would God be pleased, or would he be angry? Every single one of our Hangik Ingan leaders in South Korea has grown into a master of the way Dotong Gunja. In our terms, we call them masters of the way. In Western terms, they are God's disciples. Such expressions exist. In our nation's terminology, the word doing person of the way is used for this. So when these doins fully mature, when the Hangik Ingan fully mature, they become true human beings. Who is a true human being? They are called doins. We grew up to create a world of doins, yet we are living as private individuals instead of doins. Can we exert power then? We cannot. Even if you make someone a doin, if that doin lives as a private individual, they cannot exert power. But if a doin lives as a public figure, living publicly, they will exert power from then on. That is how it works. And what term emerged from the spiritual sects? Since we are people who practice the way do, from those sects, they called it Jongdo Ryong, the righteous leader. Calling it Jongdo Ryong sounds a bit better than Dotong Gunja, having a slightly nicer flavor to it. Doesn't it sound good when you call it that? For a long time, the name Jongdo Ryong was used frequently. As it was used, people became greedy for it and kept trying to make a single person into the Jongdo Ryong. That is wrong. The Jongdo Ryongs are these countless descendants of heaven. All these disciples of God become Jongdo Ryongs. Jongdo Ryong does not mean changing your last name to Jong. Otherwise, everyone should just change their surname to Jong. It refers to those who step out into the world with Jongdo the righteous path, and to these people, the character for spirit Rong is attached. Those who live with the righteous path, those who live publicly with the righteous path, the Hangik Ingan leaders who broadly benefit humanity, those who live while broadly benefiting others are called Jongdo Ryongs. That is why the character for spirit Ryong was attached to it. It means living by the righteous path, living correctly. Finding the right path and living correctly, these people are the Jongdo Ryongs. However, right now, people who possess talents, intelligence, and all knowledge, and who have fully absorbed culture, are living privately. Then what does their name turn into? It becomes Sa Do Ryong, a private deviated leader. When Jongdo Ryongs live as Sa Do Ryongs, they only want to be treated like leaders without doing their actual work. They don't care whether the common people die or not, they just want to be treated well. They don't care whether humanity is in total chaos and fighting for their lives. They just want to be treated well. This is South Korea right now. We must change. Even if everyone doesn't change, at least those of us gathered here must change. Those who couldn't come because they were busy, but listen to this message. The people who receive this teaching just need to change. Even with just our group, a start can be made. By doing this, let us all gather as parents of society. From now on, let us gather as members of the societal parents, and even if we pay a small membership fee, that investment is preparing to make a lamp and a torch for humanity to move in a big way in the future. As a master, I teach, but my organization does not demand money. Stepping forward as parents of society, simply create an atmosphere where such activities can take place. Just do that, and that alone. Therefore, we must unravel even the fundamental principles of how society should be built. After all, we are the parents of society. From now on, centered around the parents of society, we will study. Whatever it is, we will study from now on, and using what the societal parents have learned, we will share these studies together so that it helps all people in living their lives. The very act of our societal parents studying right now is for the sake of society. If we awaken and feel wonderful, we ought to share it. With whom? With the citizens. If we share it with the citizens and they feel good, we should then share it with the world. This is Yungbub, the law of living correctly. This is what we are studying. Therefore, on Buddha's birthday, studying even a single concept and awakening to what I did not know is the true merit of Buddha's birthday. That is why we have gathered today to listen to this lecture. Please understand it in this way.